And I think once people see it, they're like, that was insane. I had no idea guitar could do that. Or I had no idea modern composition was so beautiful or whatever. Like it really, because it's like an ignorance problem, like or it's a crude word, but like a blind spot. Yeah. Because like on TikTok, like you're not seeing like,
Because on TikTok, you're
anyway.
probably seeing hot girls playing electronic guitar or pop songs a lot more than
Yeah.
classical music.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. Exactly. And
So
that's where that, it's
very
a funny
funny.
world.
And I
No.
think the way you play guitar is very interesting because you post the guitar more like this, uh,
Yeah.
more and more like lifting like cello.
Yeah, well, it was actually funny when I played like 2 weeks ago in like Sarasota or whatever, and a woman was like she was talking to me afterward and she plays and she was like, oh, like I love that you do that. And I was like, don't do that. Like I was like, seriously, like don't do that. And I just for me it's like that was a big thing like in undergrad and masters. Well, it was just like finding a way that I found that I was like exposed to so many techniques that were like this worked for someone and this also worked for someone, and I found just like creating your own. So in a long story short, like it's just like actually when you play so high, and I mean I really do, like you're totally right. I mean it really does make playing in first position harder, but what I really like is that my right hand, it feels really good, it feels really comfortable for my right hand, and I've just found that I mean it's like it's always a give and take, and it's always changing too, but I mean, like, it really isn't like I wouldn't tell like someone that's like, go play this obviously the right way. It's like, no way. It's just it's like finding your own technique, and that's what's works so far. And that's also the interesting thing too, is when you see like really, really good players. I mean, maybe except for like I guess I'm trying to think of like some Russian pianists or something that like swear by a certain method, like they only played like 12 scales for like 10 years and then they were amazing. I don't know. I mean, obviously that's not how most people learn now, but like most like GFA winners, for example, are
Mm.
completely like obviously they're completely their own, right? Like that's what I've come up with. It's definitely like not the best way. It's a way that works for me. There are drawbacks to it, like I said, with the left hand. Yeah, in a nutshell, I think that's yeah. It's just what's kind of like worked and works with my body.
Yeah. So since you mentioned GFA, so have you
Mhm.
thought about to compete that competition?
I definitely want to at some point, probably in the next year or so. I've done a couple competitions recently and done decently well, like made semis and gone through. And it's really, I mean, one thing that was kind of, I mean, obviously COVID was awful for so many people for like much worse reasons that I have nothing to complain about. But like, there was a lot of like I was starting to kind of do competitions and kind of like get my feet wet and all of that, and then it just like boom. I mean, it stopped obviously because it was COVID. So that's one thing that I am yeah looking forward to do in the future. And it's I mean even that's kind of the interesting thing is, and I'm really like I haven't won any like big competitions really. I've done decently in a couple, but it really has, like I did two last year, and I felt like they just helped my playing so much just with just first with the pressure, because it to me at least being out of school, it feels good to be in a competition because you're not like, even for concerts, I mean obviously you're pushing yourself, but it's a different kind of perfection maybe you're striving for when it comes to those competitions. So yeah, in the future, yeah, I mean definitely that's on my radar.
Yeah, I
It's
think
competition.
the competition like GFA really helped the winner to start their career, maybe get them famous in a certain way, right?
Yeah, totally.
But also those kind of competition is very hard because all those competitors, they probably compete crazily. They compete so many competition all over the world and
Yeah,
years, and eventually they win GFA.
I mean I'd say it's very unlikely if I ever win GFA, it's like but it's I don't know, for me it's I think Marcin Dia, like I've never met him, unfortunately. I would love to hear that guy play, but I think there was one. Someone told me, he said, I mean, it's always like this, like rumors or whatever. But I mean, he was talking about how like, you really, and I think this is a really healthy perspective, is like you really can't lose with a competition. Like if you go in and you just celebrate, like if you've prepared really well, right? It's
Yes.
like, you can't do anything more. It's hard to, it's like you should just be happy with the progress that you've made, because
Yes.
if you've practiced well and you're a musician, you got a lot better. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think that's a really good perspective. I don't know what it's like with composing competitions. Like I'm not I that's not something that I would have any experience with, but it'd be interesting. Like Walter, if you I don't know, well, if
Composing
you've had
composition is
compli
complicated.
yeah,
Yeah, there
yeah,
are
yeah,
certain
no,
like
that's true.
festivals. Those festivals you can apply for it, and you just submit your like thesis, your work, and send it
Hmm.
to them and see if they're interested of how you compose. And
Yeah,
then there
yeah,
will be like a sort of competition for the
yeah.
festivals, but it's more like a showcase rather than like a competing.
Competing.
Yeah, because
Hmm.
you cannot compete art like the value of how you what type of music is better, basically.
Mm.
And
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I really like what you said of like those competitions because I always got confused by all the competitions for every like instrumental
Mm.
performance because I don't feel there need to necessarily being like who is better than whom. For me, is
Yeah.
if you love music, then you're my friend. And
Yeah.
how can you compete on the level of I love music more than you? For me, like music is for people to play, not for who can play the best.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
But what you said
Um,
makes me reconsidering the whole idea of competition. If the competitor can think about I'm practicing well and I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting stuff from the competition and I'm being a better musician, then okay, then it's pretty healthy in a way. So I really
yeah.
admire you said that.
I mean, like you said, Walter, like healthy is like, definitely the mindset. Like like my undergrad years at Eastman were not always healthy because I had I had that competition mindset, but in like a very unbalanced way where it's
Right.
like, it's like bound to explode eventually.
Mm.
So I guess like kind of a double-edged sword.
But in general, you're still a very young guitarist. I mean, like
Mhm.
30-ish, right?
Yeah, 28, 28.
Hey,
You are
you're
really
very young, very young. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
just started your own career, right? So what's your vision of your future? A lot of people like in your age, because I'm obviously older than you. I'm 10 years older than you. So
Hmm.
I already experienced some of those things, and I have my own answer, but I want to hear what
Yeah.
you think. So at this age, you probably don't make a lot of money from the music.
I
So,
make so much money. No, I'm totally kidding.
send
No,
me
sorry, sorry.
some.
so what's your vision for your long-term future?
But it's like everybody's question, especially musicians, right? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's obviously, and I think that's what's so good. And I think let me make sure I don't say something completely dumb. But like, 'cause it's such a can of worms, right? Because like it depends on your priorities, right? I could really just like, you could live very frugally for forever and just practice and practice and practice and practice. And that means your priority, right, is just like being as good as you possibly can be.
Mm.
And that's really what like that conservatory like engenders and like as it should, like that's literally the point. Is that you went to school and sat in a room and got better. But I don't know. I think that's what's been so interesting. Like I've been out of school like 3 years now, is I really don't see myself going back for a doctorate because I feel like the questions that I need to answer and kind of contend with are not there, but they're here. But I guess from anyway, being with audiences and trying to trying to interact with the thing and like outside of that spectrum. But anyway, so I mean, really one thing that's helped me so much, as I said, I play a lot of chamber music, and that has been such an interesting experience because it's made me like really show up when I need to like show up. Because like when you play solo, right? Like if you mess up, like it's okay,
Mhm.
but not if you're playing with like a string quartet, or like not if like other, or not if there's a vocalist, or not. I guess like artistically, I really like I guess you could say my like like bread and butter, like, and this is probably like every guitarist thing is like playing solo. Like I love playing solo. It's the best. Really, when I'm not, I'm pretty much usually practicing solo repertoire, but artistically, the goal would be for the next, however many years would just to be like whatever musical context I find myself in, I can play really well, and it would just be a great musician, whatever context. Because I've learned so much from like having to flip from accompanying a singer, or like being a soloist with a string quartet, or playing with a pianist, which I play with like all the time, which doesn't make any damn sense. But like it's I've like learned so much from like doing that.
Mhm.
Um, so there's that. But I mean, I teach a lot too. Like, like financially, like that's one of the things, like keeps the boat going. I don't know. I really enjoy teaching, so I see myself teaching for a long time. What setting that may be. I teach a lot privately. I teach for a little conservatory. That is not like it's not collegiate, but I mean it's like classically focused. Like it's like near Miami. But I really enjoy that because I think there's something like with, and this is kind of beside the point, but like with students, like when you every day you're working and you're practicing, and obviously you're like light years ahead of whatever student it is, just because they're your student. um, I think that really imbues kind of like, the same thing that we're talking about with why should an audience care about, the Beethoven or whatever.
Right.
I think when people directly experience like that connectivity, especially one-on-one with like, oh, well, I was working on this problem just the other day or something, like it kind of starts to open, and like, it starts to like kind of like show them the depth. And anyway, I think that's one. I mean, that's another thing I've learned like out of school. We'll haven't even a year from now. But yeah, I mean, I would love to, love to keep playing, competing, and teaching, and just like as many is as high level as I can. I mean, obviously, you guys know it's like it's super tricky and it's very unstable. But it's not impossible. Anybody that you see 10 years down the road in music, and this obviously doesn't apply to like everybody or whatever, like catch all or whatever, but like it's like they really wanted it. And like whether you think they're the best player in the world or the worst or the best composer, the worst, whatever, is like they really wanted it, and you should like respect that. It's like whether you agree with their methods, whether you think they're ridiculous, whether you think they're whatever. It's like, and like because like that's not you just don't think about that when you're school, because you really shouldn't. I guess like in other degree paths, like that's all you think about. I don't know. I'm a musician, but yeah, I mean it's just like to continue to be a musician. And I think there's something very, very important spreading beauty in the world. And I think it's important that that is continually presented as a viable thing. Kind of the more you give to this thing, the more you get from it. And people like, you got to be a proponent of it. You got to kind of fight for it. And I think that also takes a certain kind of, I mean, it's like the same thing that you guys are doing, right? Like, I think a lot of successful young musicians, they're going out and they're not waiting for like opportunities, and man, I mean, I've made plenty of mistakes and all of that, and like things I probably would have been scared to do, especially in conservatory, even on stage. But it's like, but there's kind of this like pushing forward, but which the youth are good at, right? Like you're in that stage to do that. That's a necessary thing that a lot of successful, and I mean successful, whatever, just like people that are still in the arts, still wanting to be a part of it. Same thing you guys are doing, or creating things because they have the expertise and they see needs that like other people don't see, and they see opportunities because they have the expertise. So I think if musicians keep doing that thing, and I try to do the same thing myself, like it create a very rich, cultural environment. Like how could it not?
Obviously, you are very passionate for your future.
Yeah. Just narcissistic. But it's so funny to talk about yourself so much.
Then this is all the question we have.